Okay, so we're back with another day of dev videos here. Now, before we begin, we got a couple things. One, shout out to Alex on Discord for giving us great missiles. I don't think I've given him enough appreciation for all the work he's been doing. Another thing is, I don't know if you guys seen on Twitter, there's a high possibility that I may lose my current home within 3 months. Now, right now, I live with my mom, and there's a possibility that the company she works for, which is Lowe's, is going to be getting rid of all their HR managers in July. At least that's what it sounds like. And they've already fired several of them, so it's a high possibility. Now, this may basically mean, well, won't have a job, and she's only got a few months worth of money to pay for a mortgage, which means if she can't get another job or I can't get a job, my brother can't get a job, yeah, gonna be homeless rather shortly. Now, normally I don't like asking for money from you guys because I do all this modding for pretty much free, even though I do make a small profit off of ads. It's nowhere close to what a real job would be. I kind of would like if you guys would support me via Patron so I can continue doing what I like to do and you can continue enjoying the mods. Now, we're getting really, really close to getting ICBM completed enough that we can start updating to 1.8 and everything. So what I went ahead and did, announced on Twitter that if you guys can hit $1,000 a month, just this next month or so, you don't have to continue doing it after a couple months, then I will go ahead and update to 1.8 now rather than waiting, say, 3 or 4 months down the road like I was planning on doing to finish the updates. So you guys can hit that. Now, if you can also hit 3,000, which I announced on Twitter, which I doubt you guys are going to do, but I threw this out here just in case you guys actually cared. I'll update all the old UE mods. Now, I already do plan to update most of them, and I already do plan to pick up a lot of the content. But instead of just picking up the content or just making a replica of the mod, I'll update the original mods as they were and go ahead and throw them up on here. This means I'll do mad science, I'll do atomic science, I'll do resonant induction. I'll look at some of the other ones. Some of the other ones I'm not sure really need to be updated, like Elusive Hawk's machine mod or Alex's machine mod. Now, I might note this is not the same Alex doing our models. This is Alex Hawks, who worked for the UE team as well. I'll see what else we can do for 3,000 because that's a lot of money for you guys to be donating. But if you can hit that goal, that pretty much pays the mortgage for a single month, which would make me happy and would give my mom more time to figure out what she's doing so that way she doesn't lose her house. I mean, she's been trying to get this house for years. We've been living in apartments, and after the bank foreclosed on our last house several years ago, right before I went to college, it's been like, what, 6 years now? I don't think she wants to go through that again. So trying to figure out a way we can best handle that. And a highly likelihood, if I can't get a lot of support on Patreon or other support, I mean, you guys don't have to support me via money. Just downloading the mods is enough. Because every time you download the mods, I get like a penny or something per maybe 100 downloads or something. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Actually, we can do the math. So let's pop over to Curse real quick. So right now, Curse, I'm doing like close to $2 a day is what it's sitting at. So if we hit Reward Store and open on the other tab, and I can show you exactly how much. I've got like 50 bucks sitting on here right now, but I plan to use this money to pay modelers right now is how that's sort of working. That's what I've been using the Curse points for most of the time. I throw them at DMod when he works in the build servers, and I throw them at our modelers when they do us work. But we're getting about 25 points. Now, each point's 5 cents right now. So if you go 0.05 times 25.75. So we're doing $1.30. Might I note this fluctuates a lot, so it actually levels out a lot closer to $2 over the time frame, because it'll go up. Actually, it's been pretty low this last month. So it's been going down, like every month it seems to have been going down again. And then on weekends it goes up a bit sometimes. I think the mod pack, which was, yeah, because you see like we had 40 points here. We were running 40 points for 2 days in a row. I think it's because of the mod that holds wooden shears, which is giving us most of our money, which I still laugh at every single time when you think about that, that by itself was giving us a huge amount of money. So it's $1.04 right there. So yeah. Anyways, ignoring all that, let's go ahead and look at ICBM itself. Now, ICBM hasn't been getting a lot of downloads, and this is unfortunate. So the reason why a lot of bugs have been going unchecked and unfixed is I need you guys to download stuff. I need you guys to test the mods. I need you guys to be reporting back and going like, hey, this stuff's broken, and be doing the alpha versions, by the way, too, because the beta versions are a bit old. But you can see we're not getting a huge amount of downloads. So this has been out for 6 days. This is the stable one. This is the one that most people are downloading. We're getting about 100 downloads a day. I want to say that's doing us maybe 5 to 10 cents a day right now in download money. And that's towards me, as everybody else gets their own share, because if we actually go over to the members list, I do take most of the share, by the way, because after all, I do most of the work. But you see, like, modelers get, like, certain percentages. Like, I already got Alex getting a percentage. I would give Cow Coffee a percent, but I've just got him on there to be respectful that it is his mod. Yeah. Morton's probably going to throw a fit that he's only getting 1%, but he showed up to work more often than I'd give him more percentage. Anyways, that aside, because I'm probably going to have to rebalance that here later after showing that on my video. So yeah, if you guys can get support Patreon, it doesn't actually have to be that much. I mean, if you guys get to 500, I think I would go ahead and just update to 1.8 anyways. If I can just get a consistent support frame here, it would really, really help, because right now I think we're looking at like $2 grand for the mortgage, and that doesn't even cover utilities, phone bills, everything else. And as I've noted actually in the overview right now, you can actually scroll down of me talking about how much it actually cost me for everything. Like, the organization by itself cost me a decent amount of money. And then there's personal costs. University is killing me right now. This is where all my money's gone. I actually had a good sum of money for a while, thanks to you guys from Patron. And it all went to doing university work. Speaking of which, we're probably only going to do one video today because I have 2 labs to do today. And I then have a ton of coding work to do for a separate class. After all, I'm working on a application here for class, which is to do grades and stuff on your phone. So we got it working. I can actually load up my phone. It's actually pretty nice. I'll show it off to you guys later, because I actually don't think I will get yelled at for showing that off, so I may actually record myself doing Android development. Now, this would be a big surprise for you, but I have no clue what I'm doing with Android development, and that's pretty bad because I want to make 2 to 3 apps for Minecraft stuff. There's a plan of us doing an Android app to control in-game content from your phone, so you'll be like in the game playing, and you want to say, for example, flip your security door open. You can pull your phone out, click security door on your phone, and the door would open. And that's like a huge thing because it's external interaction. We're probably going to do that with the Android app first, and then unless you guys probably give us support, we're probably not going to do any ISO stuff, because I frankly just don't know how to do it, which means I'm probably not going to support it right away, including the fact I don't have an Apple phone whatsoever. So yeah. But that all aside, it took 8 minutes. I'm a little bit more than I thought it was going to take. So we're going to work on ICBM. Now, I've already did a bit of work here, and let me go ahead and launch the right configuration. Yeah, I'm working on commission mods again. I'm trying to get them all knocked out so I can get a little bit of money here to pay for bills as well. What actually makes this even worse of the mortgage payments and stuff is I got to get dental work here done, and my mom's like, hey, it's going to cost you $3,000. I'm thinking it's only going to cost $400 because I'm going to have my wisdom teeth removed and probably some other dental work done, because I've been holding it off way too long, and it's getting to the point where I'm having to take painkillers daily just to function because the pain is getting that bad. So I got to get that fixed, and unfortunately I'm pretty much broke. I think my bank account's got $300, $400 in it after I went ahead and paid for everything I could pay for, which is like GitHub repositories. I got our asset developer Grogger a new hard drive, which he's badly needed. He's thrilled about having that. He's more than likely going to start working on the game again. So that's actually another thing. We're probably going to start recording the game development stuff again, because we were talking about it in Discord with a few other people. We got a few different plans. Now, right now, the game we are working on is like a D&D style simulator type game, so it's not going to be as exciting, but it is going to be a 2D top-down view style game, so it might be playable by most of you. But we are looking at taking the engine for that and making a few other games while we go. One I'm looking at right now is an asteroid defense game. I know it sounds funny when you're taking a D&D engine and using it for that. The engine itself actually is not restricted to D&D gameplay, so it doesn't have to be turn-based. The engine mainly is a graphic render system with a little bit of physics in it. So what I'm thinking about doing is making a NASA-inspired asteroid defense system where you actually will defend the planet from asteroids, and you'll have the planet Earth on one side of your screen, and it'll have like X out of so many billion people on the planet, and every time you miss an asteroid, people die. But you'll have to, it'll be closer to a cookie clicker with a little bit of action into it, so you'll have to make some decisions, but it'll mostly be a cookie clicker game. I'm actually not even sure we're going to make that as a Java-based game. We may actually just do that as like a JavaScript, so it can be one of those I/O games. I know people probably don't like the idea of more I/O games, but I think it would be an interesting concept. Even if it doesn't make us any money, it'd be something interesting to explore. But yeah, so back to development stuff. Yeah, nothing's working. To put in perspective, I had the missiles rendering yesterday, and I removed the icons off of here because I'm trying to move it to the JSON system, and I completely neglected to check to see if anything was working. Let's see if the renders are working for at least this stuff. Oh wow, the renders aren't even working. So yeah, we got a bit of work to do. You know what we need to do? We need to register the item missile as a JSON object so it gets the render class code. That's probably why it's not working. But yeah, so for those who don't know what I'm doing, I'm stripping the current missile system down to JSON level stuff. And this is two-part. This is A, to make it easier to update in the future, but it's also to allow full, utter customization of the missile system. So if you don't like, say, people having extra large or medium missiles or stuff, you just disable them, and there's no harm to the game. It just runs by itself. This also allows people to change assets out whenever they want. They can change models. They can add new missiles. They can change the HP values, the ranges, the flight times. They can do a little bit of everything. It also means we have less and less code. I mean, look at this. We're starting to get this stripped down in code value, and I'm going to try to get a lot of this add information stripped down to JSON as well. Yeah, there's a lot of work left to do, though. I need to get all this engine stuff out of the item class. So the item class is going to turn into a container here pretty soon. And that container is then going to end up functioning as, well, just a container. It's not going to have any of this stuff on it. So we're going to get rid of a lot of the ammo off of it, a lot of the other things. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure this out. Because we still got a little bit of work to do. We've got a lot, actually, let me phrase, we got a lot of work to do to figure out what the hell we're doing right now. Because I'm doing this all off of, what's the word? I'm winging it, is pretty much what's going on right now. But right now, we do already have it extending via the JSON system. Item base is our JSON class object. And we already have, well, we should have a node, but we're going to just fake and not use a node right now. That's going to save us a bit of time here. We need to get this stuff to move to JSON here pretty soon. I do have to make special handling for a few of these. For example, missile crafting parts and sheet metal parts, they both need to go to JSON for one, but I need to OR dictionary both of them so that way you can implement mods that have alternative parts in it. Because, I mean, a small cylinder, I guarantee there's another mod that has a small cylinder that would act as sheet metal. Keep in mind this is sheet metal. For those who don't know what sheet metal is, it's a really thin metal plate that you can pretty much bend by hand, although I don't recommend it because you'll cut your hands up. I've done it before. I still have scar marks on my hands of where I've been cut by sheet metal before. For those that also don't know, my dad did sheet metal work for a very long time, and unfortunately I went around with him when I was a kid and got to do things a kid normally doesn't get to do, like get to see the back end of KFC, and yeah, that place doesn't look at all nice. There's a reason I don't eat at those places anymore. The word Kentucky Fried Rat actually does match. Sadly, their food actually is good. It's just you can't get that mental image out of your head once you get it. So let's figure this out. So I need to register this for the JSON system. Now this is actually pretty easy to do. Number one thing is we got to get rid of this part here. Although we still need to keep track of the missile item, I think. Actually, let's just get rid of the missile item altogether. Off of that. I mean, not get rid of the item, but get rid of the reference to it. And then we'll comment this out, because I need to make sure I know that that was there. By the way, we also disabled the cart loaders from loading. For those people that are going like, what are these carts and how do you use them? Well, they're assembly line carts. There's now a tooltip that says they're assembly line carts, and now it's disabled if assembly line is not installed. Anyways, we need to get this registered. Now, how we do that is we have to actually create a JSON file. And let's go ahead and find, oh, we already have a file started for it. So there's already a plan to get this going. So what I just need to do is go find the one that's already started and copy it. Now, because this is a dynamic render system, we actually do not need to do anything else with it. I think all I need to do is just put this class in here, because this is item class driven. We aren't using a wrapper for the missile, and the reason we're not is because the missile still has a lot of custom code on it, so a wrapper would just not help us whatsoever. Oh, we have a problem down here. We're going to want to make something similar to how Minecraft has a class of all their items and blocks. We're going to want to do the same thing with here eventually. Yeah, because we still reference this in multiple places. So let's see. I lost my train of thought. Here we go. Yeah, I've not had enough sleep here lately, so I may lose my train of thought a couple times by doing this, and I apologize if it happens, but that's the disadvantage of not sleeping a lot, not eating properly, and a little bit of everything else too. I don't know what we need the name for. Has subtypes, yep. Max stack size. The thing is, we actually need a dynamic stack system for the missiles, but I actually will leave it as one right now until somebody complains. Yeah, that'll work. I don't see any problem with it. Actually, you know what? No. Yeah, we'll leave it at one. I'm sitting here thinking through my head, like, it would be kind of cool to be able to stack certain ones up, but I need a dynamic stacker, and that means I need to implement a listener for it. So we'll get to that later. And I think it's all the code I actually need. We're going to find out really shortly if I am wrong, though. And you know what? I don't even know why we're not just doing this. Because, I mean, that's what you're registering in the first place. Someone says there's like legacy code here at some point. That's the reason why it looks the way it does. So we got to figure out how to do this. What we may just do is go open the item, or go open the API and just make a, just make a ICBM. Can we do underscores in class names? I actually don't know. Is that acceptable? It's not complaining. Put a final there. So we're going to need a version number up here. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to copy the version system right out of the ICBM main class. But I'm going to leave both of them here. And what will happen is the version number of the actual build will be the same version number of the API. There won't be any difference between them. And I'll just get dmod to change up the build script a little bit. But then we'll go ahead and we'll do the items here. So this will be version number checks injected by build system. And we'll do this as items. And my phone just chirped here, so give me a second while I check that. 3 new emails. I always like that, how it's like I go and check everything. Oh, well, I have to read that later. Apparently my university changed financial aid requirements. And unfortunately I'm doing financial aid to pay for most of my bills this semester, so hopefully they didn't just screwball me. It happens though. Alright, so we want to get, we want to move all of this stuff over, even though it's going to be a pain in my butt to do. Yeah. We'll just change that, and unfortunately my dog is yipping behind me. Okay, so we got all this here. We're going to have to change this to item for it to work properly, or it's going to crash when somebody tries to install the API. Because you want to make sure when you're looking up here at your imports when you're doing API stuff, you want to make sure it's pretty much vanilla, Forge, or other things inside of your API or a pre-required API. So like, for example, Voltage and API would be acceptable to have stuff up here because you would require the voltage API theoretically to use the ICBM API. Although it's best ideal if you design an API to have the most minimum requirements possible to use your API. That way people can easily implement support for your mods and not have to go like, but I can't do this, I can't do that, etc., etc. So we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff here. Yeah, this is going to be a pain in my butt to do though. So this will be ICBM, API, and then dot and that. And then you just go through and we're going to have to update all of it real quick. Probably the last thing I probably should be doing. Here we go. That fixes everything here, but as you can tell, we have errors everywhere. And we're going to have to add this back. So create filled item. So add that. And let me go take care of my dog here real quick. And I'll be right back. And yeah, I'm not going to edit or cut that out either, because, oh well, it's only like a couple seconds. Hopefully my dog doesn't start barking at me, because I let her outside and she'll be like, hey, I want back inside all of a sudden. Yeah. Anyways, I got a lot of errors to clean up, and I probably should have used some kind of like refractor move system so it automatically did this for me, but it's not that bad. It could be worse. Everything could be on fire. Let me actually go ahead and close everything too while I'm at it. I'll reopen things as I need them. Huh. This is where you kind of regret it immediately when you have this much stuff to mess with. Yeah, we got a lot of the API stuff failing too while we're at it. You know, another thing I need to do is I need to make a place where all the explosives are registered to from ICBM. I'll probably do that in the API as well. Give static names for all of the explosives. That's something that needs to be done. This is where I always talk about the mod really heavily needs to be polished. A lot of this has just been made with me just deciding one day, hey, I want to code something without actually spending a huge amount of time designing it or properly implementing it. This is also why if you ever look at somebody's mod, you're like, why is it so broken? It's the same reason. Is somebody decides like, hey, we just want to quickly get something implemented and we don't really care what happens in the process. And that's kind of what's sort of happening with a lot of this stuff. It's where there was minimum planning involved. Now, I do have plans for a lot of my stuff, just not heavy plans. It's more like agile development style plans where you just go, hey, we want to add this feature this week, and then you guys kind of figure it out on your own. That's one of the reasons I actually don't like agile, by the way. I don't like any of the development processes, to be honest. They're either too restrictive or too loose, and they do work for people, but you usually have to bastardize them in order to get them to function properly. I don't think I've ever met somebody who said they've actually used Agile truly to the letter. Most people just kind of like use it and they just go, hey, yeah, we're using Agile, but then when you ask them, it's like, no, we're using this variation of Agile or that, or like, for example, like when I worked with the UE team, we used something called Extreme Programming, which was a version of Agile where instead of doing a proper dev cycle, you just popped code as quickly as possible. It's the reason why, if you ever were familiar with the old UE team, that's the reason we had like hourly updates. If we were developing, there was a new build out like every few minutes or every few hours. And I kind of moved away from that. We do daily builds though for right now, but that's just a temporary thing for you guys who might be going like, hey, why is there all these builds? Like, that's a temporary thing. We're going to be moving back to weekly builds as soon as we get things polished. We're just doing that for the testers so they've got access as quickly as possible. Now, on Patron, that is a goal, by the way, to make sure the build system stays that way, but at some point I'm going to have to start paying DMod because he's putting a lot of work into it. The guy's working, like, I think 3 jobs just to pay for his bills. I don't know how he keeps up with things, but if there was somebody who had a label as an MVP of the team, it's him, pretty much. The guy who pretty much holds the team together. I do most of the work, he holds the team together. So let's see. Now we're getting there though. So we're getting everything sorted out here, getting all the errors cleaned up. There's a lot of stuff. I got to work on all the rocket engine recipes here. There's a fuel system coming really soon. That's probably what we're going to be working on as soon as I'm done with the JSON system. So as soon as we're done with the JSON system, as soon as we get the medium missile imported, we're going to then add a fuel system to the game. This is something that I've wanted to do for a while. It's been on the development list for quite a while, but we actually have models now for it. And for those who follow my dev progress, I usually don't work on things until I get models, which is, I need to break that habit of mine. It's a habit I developed on the UE team where we didn't start on anything until we had textures, models, and everything else. At least I never started on anything. I have a feeling I'm going to get corrected by somebody else in the UE team saying, well, we started on stuff. Well, yeah, that's you. The UE team was just a disarray of everything. I'm actually trying to write a small little thing describing everything that happened in the UE team. And at some point, I'm just going to have to go find all the old UE members and try to get as much of their perspective as possible. That way, I don't write a story that is entirely speculatory, because that's what it is right now. I've got my own experience, and then I've got a lot of speculation. This is the reason why I always had problems with Aiden as well. I actually worked my issues out with Aiden, and we both found out that we had opinions of each other. We had opinions of the team and everything else that were mostly hearsay and rumor, and we had let that propagate for way too long. This is one of those things, like, if you want a life lesson, always try to work out with your opponent to figure out if you actually hate each other. Because neither of us actually hated each other, we were just frustrated. At least I was frustrated. He actually had, like, most of that go already. And to be honest, to some extent I did as well, but always had that edge frustration that always popped back up. So let's see. Yeah. When we update to 1.8 and plus, by the way, it's just going to be videos of me doing this, by the way, of just correcting error after error after error. There's probably videos of other developers already out there on YouTube that have done the updates already, and you probably could sit there and watch them, where they go through and they run patches or they run refactors, and they're just fixing error after error after error. This is one of the reasons why we haven't updated as well. I mean, at this point we have a list of almost 2 pages of reasons why we haven't. But I've actually made an attempt on a couple of the mods, and some of these mods don't like to update well. Although a lot of the smaller mods are updating, and there should be updated, most of them, here pretty soon, as we do have a couple of developers working on it. Although we did lose Kalatra, who was our main guy updating a lot of the single block mods, so yeah. It's gonna be a long time before everything's done. I hope to get everything updated before the end of the year, but that's kind of one of those hope and dream moments. Because if I can't get my current situation fixed, well, I may have to drop down to doing nothing but ICBM, just in order to keep it alive so it doesn't die. Although I am looking for more developers still. I always have been. Anybody's welcome to join the team. I do consider it an open source project team, even though all rights are owned by the organization. So it's open source with some legal protection, is a way to put it. Man, there's a lot of references to things. Tons of references. Man, I might have to go through here and just fix things. Okay, let's just hit build, make project, and see what errors it pops up. And while it's building, I'm going to go let my dog back inside. At least I do have to admit, my dog is pretty smart. She's figured out that the window to my room is right there next to the fence. So she'll walk over there and she'll start barking at the window to get my attention. I don't see any errors, but I'm going to hit rebuild project instead of hit just build, and hopefully we catch any errors that are happening. Now I do have to still fix a few things here. We are missing a lot of items out of this list. And we are missing a few other things here. Make sure I note that that's there. Probably need to reorganize most of this. Probably get some better names for a lot of stuff. Like for example, I probably need to document stuff like this. This would be items, parts. Is that an explosive crafting item, or is that? That's one of the bigger problems here. Is like why there's references to things and there's references to not things, and actually this would be items, entity, items, parts, items, tools. It says block warhead. Okay, yeah, I got the wrong thing down here. This is actually a part. So this is the explosive. These are explosive parts. The thing I wanted to put in dev content is actually up here. It's this thing right here. This is a developer block. It does not register normally, and it will not show up in game, so I don't want somebody to get an idea that this is actually always there, because it's not. This would be blocks, command system. So there's launcher frames. So we're going to actually put a thing here for blocks, launchers. Actually, this will go down here. That's direct command controller. Crashed missile. What we'll do is we'll call these effect blocks. Because these are things that are as a result of explosions going off. So you got the cake, which is used for April's Fools only, but it's registered all times. Probably actually going to make it anytime thing. Basically it's a poison cake. Okay, so these are all parts. That's organized not too badly. We got no errors, so we can launch the game, although I have to make sure missile is registered or it'll fail. And we'll do this probably in the main class here. Let me down everything real quick so it'll collapse on itself. So we want content. Actually, we want ICBM here. And then what we want to do is somewhere below here, we want to go public or protected void register or a init API is what we're going to call it. So load blocks and items, and this is going to be called, yeah, we'll call it here init API. So we'll load everything in here, and what this will be is, for example, is we'll go ICBM API dot item missile equals item dot item registry dot get object, and then it'll be ICBM missiles, what it should be. Of course, this will cast. So this will load everything up, and we'll sit here and we'll go through every item we have available, and we'll re-add it back in to the API list. We are missing things like radar gun and a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'll get those later. Just I want to make sure there's an initialization here that does describe what we're going to end up doing. And I got to move a lot of these recipes down over to the JSON system here later, and damn, I'm getting emails. So I think everybody's finally woken up for the day. Yeah, I've been awake since 6 in the morning, so a little strange when I go, like, half my classmates don't get up to like noon, and these are all professionals, by the way, too. These aren't like kids who just got out of high school. These are people that actually work in the industry and have jobs, and they don't check their email until like noon. So let's see. Yeah, that's good. So we should be able to launch the game up without crashing. At least we'll test that real quick. We still got to fix textures. Textures are going to have to be handled by the missile casings themselves. So that means we are going to have to code a content ID system. And what I'm talking about is So the missile object, if I can go find it. I'll downscreen this while it's launching. By the way, I restructured the missile system. I think I did that in the last video where I moved a lot of stuff around. But we have the item missile here. So right now, we're extending the JSON system via this. This gives us access to listeners, it gives access to the node system, so if we decide later we want to start using node for a lot of our logic, which we really do need to migrate towards, we can start doing that. And yeah, so we got node system, we got our listeners, which give us access to a lot of the methods in here internally, so we can end up recycling code a lot more often. But we have our icon system. Our icon system is a JSON-based system that does, of course, have support for listeners as well, so you can use a listener to change your icons. But it's primarily designed for JSON, which means we have to figure out what our render key is. So call the render key for the stack. Keep in mind, prefixed by the render type. So this gets our rendered content ID. So we can change our rendered content ID, which is important because right now it's the mod plus the ID. So this would be ICBM missile. But what we could do is behind the missile do the name of the casing, and that will allow us to change stuff whenever we want. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, and we want to pop it in here so we can change it based on the casing name. Now, of course, we want to go and do super.getRenderContentID meta if we don't have anything, but we want to go, okay, if we can get our missile. Actually, we don't even need the missile. What we just need is the casing ID. So let's make another method down here. By the way, we're probably going to... Yeah, we won't be able to reload while we're in here, but we can at least check to make sure nothing crashes. I don't think anything will, because I think we translated it pretty cleanly there. We didn't get any missing item or errors. Yeah, so it works. On top of that, you notice we now get advantage of the JSON content render ID system. So it's telling us what our node ID is, it's telling what our render type is. So our render ID is ICBM missile, so that's good. And it will tell us what our S render is and E render is. I don't remember what those are. I coded those, I just flat out. Oh yeah, one's a stack render, one is a entity render. So there's a render based on the entity itself, and there's a render based on the stack. So it goes entity, then stack for the ID system. This is actually used by the guns more than anything, but I went ahead and made it available to all the JSON content. And that's to better give accessibility to all developers who end up using VoltEngine. After all, even though I don't say it enough, VoltEngine is designed for more than just myself to use. So anybody can pick it up and start utilizing it to make their own mods. So we want to get a casing system here. So missile casing data. Get missile casing data. Shoot. You know what's really bad about this get render content ID system here? There's not a stack there. So I want to go ahead and figure out where the hell this is called by. So get icon from damage. I want the item stack version though. This is what I want. I want a different version of this thing. So we actually have a hole in our code here, basically. We need a version of this as an item stack. Item stack, stack. And what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and wrap it down to the base one. So we'll get render content ID, stack that get item damage. And we just have to fill the hole in here so that way it's used in the spots it's supposed to be used in. Why is our content ID stuff down here and then our render stuff? It doesn't matter. So we got a stack here. So anytime we have a stack available and we're trying to get the content ID, we need to make sure it actually will pass through the stack it has available. That way we get the most appropriate render for this at a time. Is how the render system works is it will always try to use this system or this one first. Technically, how Minecraft flows, if it's a player, it does this one, and if it can't render via this, it will do this one next. And then everything should use this one. And if it's not using this one, then it's failing on supporting the API properly. So we get that, and we want to go ahead and use this. So item stack, stack. And then we want to switch... Yeah, we just want to go ahead and switch this to the item stack system. Put stack in there. And what we do is go missile casing data. Data equals get missile casing data stack. And if data doesn't equal null, now what we might want to just go do is just return this ID here, because this ID would be a render system itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do just that and see how it works. And then what we want to do down here is we just want to extract that ID. Now this should be easy to do. Is what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create. I'll create a method inside the missile class. Missile.get casing data. Oh, I need to fix that. I'm like, why isn't it letting me do the alt enter thing? It's because I messed it up, that part. So I already have a couple methods like this at the bottom here. So we got one right here for the warhead thing. So adding one for the missile casing is not a bad idea. I'll probably do this for all of the stuff, because what we'll do is we'll cut out the middleman, which is right now, if we go to the item here, we spend a huge amount of time loading up various things here. Now, so here's all our warhead stuff. So what I did is, this used to be you loaded up the missile, then you extracted the warhead from the missile, and then you grabbed the data you needed. Now we just grabbed the warhead directly and we did that. Now there's a potential possibility I may even switch to just, well, actually I can't do it that way. So I can do it for the missile because nobody should be making their own missile objects, but with the warheads and stuff, you can make your own warhead objects. So you could make a warhead that has a very special handling to it. But there's a few other things down here, like for example, I think the engines are still the old way. Yeah, so right here you still load up the missile for the engines. That needs to be fixed because that's an extra piece of data you have to load up. That's extra junk object you're making. So if we can get rid of that, that would probably work out really well. But ignoring that, because we want to focus on doing this part next. So we're going to get the casing data. Now right now the casing data should be saved. Is it actually even loaded? It's not even saved actually either. Awkward. Oh yeah, okay, so it uses missile data. So we want this piece. Actually, we want to use this whole piece right here. That'll work. Because then we can throw this down here. And we can just do this. So we can go return. And we can even better than this is we can go up all the way to the constructor. And instead of having this big piece of junk here, I can go data equals get missile casing data, and then you put stack. And then that saves me a little bit of code here, so I don't have to rewrite that every single time, and it's down here and it's staticed out. And be honest, I need to go ahead and do something here. So let's refactor, extract, build. Build decoration, replace occurrences. There. Wow, that didn't work as planned, but I'm okay with that, because now I can just go up here and go MBT missile casing. Yeah, do refactor. That's what I wanted to do. Oh, it changed the name of it too. Missile casing. Not that it was saved, so I'm okay with this. We don't have any other IDs and stuff, so this is actually fine. But this will give us what we're looking for. So that means we now have the content ID available. Which, if I can go back to the missile. So now we have the content IDs, which then will give us what we're exactly looking for. Actually, to be honest, I think I'm just going to remove this method altogether, because I don't see anybody using this on the stack. And if they really want it, they can just call the missile itself. Yeah, that looks good. We'll probably want to go ahead and put the this down here as well, because the missile casing is going to describe literally everything about the missile. It's going to describe how its name is spelled, how it displays, how it can be held, how big it is. Everything describes the missile casing data. For those who've been following how the gun data works, it's the same exact idea. Is you have this object that describes how a gun behaves. Now we have objects describing the missiles behave. This is going to be something we're going to do with everything. You're going to have a data object that describes how all of its instances, so anything you make, so anytime you make a new object, there's a data class that describes how all of its behavior functions until it's been customized. So this data will describe, say, the foundational part of what a missile looks like, but then when you stick an engine or warhead in it, it's a unique object. And this data will then just only describe the body of the missile, and then you'll have another data object that does the warhead, another data object that does everything else, and so on and so on. Anyways, let's go ahead and we're going to want to fix the render, I guess. So this means we need to come down here, find the missile, and we're going to start with the micro. The micro already has a render started for it. What I need to go ahead and do is fix the inventory one here, because this one it should not be the way it is. And then we need to load the model up. So we have to actually go over here to textures and models and make sure that we actually have a model loaded for the micro. Now I don't really care what order of operation this is in, so we're just going to do this. I'll probably make a program later that'll reorganize all this. So what is the name it's requesting? Just micro. You know, that's probably a bad idea, to have the content ID be identical to the actual registry. Actually, I don't know if these will conflict with each other. I don't think it will. I probably should maybe modify this though. So let's pop over the missile casing and take a look at actually, you know what, we're even accessing this wrong, so give me like another second to go to the bottom here. No, I don't need to mess with that class. I need to mess with this one. So we're just flat out grabbing the ID here. What we actually want to do is get content ID. And then we'll come up to the content ID, and so we got a unique ID, which is what our actual ID is. But we have a content type. So what we actually want to do is we want to prefix the content type to the front of this. So we go content type plus. This way we don't have to worry about conflict. Because then our actual content ID, if we pop over to our system and pop back in here, it'll actually be missile.icbm.micro. And this will prevent conflict. So if I decide to have an actual physical missile item here later, it will not overlap with these, and you won't have to figure out how you're going to do render for two objects with one render data. So when you do the content ID, they always should be unique, and they should be unique across everything. But when you do the ID, they only need to be unique across their subtype. So they only need to be unique across missile, for example, or across your item or block or whatever you're doing. So I think that makes that part clear. So we need to do back to doing this stuff. Actually, I need to go back to here and figure out what I called it. Yeah, we need to rename these. Micro missile. Replace all. And I don't think I should have to do anything else than that, but that'll work. And we'll go through and we'll probably end up renaming a lot of these other ones as well, just to... Actually, no, this one actually falls in line with everything else. That's pretty good, actually. We do need to go ahead and find our missile model, so we'll go ahead and we'll use a tabletop game. I've been doing that consistently to hop around. What I need to do is I need to make some kind of widget. I like over here on the side that I can just click and open up all the project folders. I actually just need to reorganize everything in here is what really needs to be done. Because I have a little bit of everything. At least this isn't bad. Back when I used to work for the UV team, I was worse than this. So you see like maybe about 40 projects in here. I have the source code to every mod made for Minecraft that was popular. And I really shouldn't have had it all, but I did because oftentimes I fixed people's mods unofficially and would give people patches. And I just did that because, well, modding is modding. Actually, I want the resource folder. So assets, ICBM. And what I mean by modding is modding, by the way, is it's when somebody gets all upset about you modifying their mod, you really have to understand that they're being kind of hypocritical in a way, because they're modding a game that really people don't want to have modded in the first place. Because I'm pretty sure Mojang would prefer to just make all their own content, even though they know the modding community makes stuff for them, and they're probably happy about it, but once again, it goes back to the whole marketing thing. Anytime somebody makes a mod, then they really can't make that same content. We need the texture now. Getting like off track here, kind of rambling. This is kind of what happens when I haven't had my morning coffee. Not that it gets any better, but eh. Since we actually switched everything over to the missile system, I can actually start doing this and start tossing these textures into the missile folder. I think it's all the missile ones. Oh yeah, we have the old ones here. Okay, so now we need to make some new folders. Micro, and then we already have small, so I'll just toss small there. And then toss micro. I don't know what this guy is. I think he's just a default skin pattern that we use for the missiles. Then this is the original ICBM Classic condensed missile, and this is a micro missile that was made also for ICBM Classic, but ended up being used for the new rewrite. Yeah, we got our skins here. Yeah, we actually have quite a few skins for the medium too. I'm looking forward to implementing them all. But now we have a micro here, so what we're going to do is we're going to call this default, and we're going to do the same for here. Did I misspell that? Okay, Google, we're going to use your help to tell me if I misspelled a word that I should not be able to misspell.
Default.
Yeah, I think we're good. So we got that one, and then let me go in here and make sure the medium is named the same way. It's actually called vanilla. We're going to name it default. That'll make our lives a little easier, and all I have to do is come back over to the texture page, and then we just have to go through and make sure we update all the pages. So actually what we want to do is we call this default. And we want to do the same exact thing for the small now, except we're going to change the middle part here. Actually, I misplaced that. There we go. So this will be small. I think it's everything. We just need to go ahead and add one more entry for the micro. You know, I think I'm going to make myself a giant pot of coffee here later. I haven't had a summable amount of coffee in quite a while for reasons I've listed before, where health concerns and stuff, but I gotta get work done. Gotta pay the bills. Really sucks. But, oh well. So we get, yeah, it's good. Now we just gotta load up the icons. So go back to textures, go to items. So we have missile textures. And the reason we did this is to make sure that, reason I did this, I should probably stop using the word we, is that to make things run faster. So we want to get this guy loaded in here. And let's grab this real quick. The only reason I'm caching stuff up here is because we'll recycle these models and textures over and over again throughout other things. But when you start getting unique textures, you want to list them in the class that's using them. You don't want to be having them all over the place. So this would be a micro missile icon, and this would, instead of being a model, is going to be an item texture. And then you just want to grab this name here and just put that right there. And then what we do is we just go ahead and use this in our inventory code, so that way it will render this thing instead of rendering everything else. This needs to be coded as an item. And then the only thing we need to put in here is texture ID. And there we go. And this should work. If it doesn't work, it's going to be something simple like the content ID is not matching up properly, or this not loading, or something. We'll go ahead and pop this open, and once we get the micro done, I'll go ahead and end this video, because then the small and the medium, or small, standard, and medium are just going to be repeats of this process. I'll just go ahead and load everything in, then I'll end up tweaking everything because the render positions probably won't be correct, and then I'll probably have to spend probably just a day messing with the entities themselves, because there's going to be some problems getting the entities to render correctly. And this is a big issue that's always been in there. If people notice, the entities don't quite render perfectly, especially when they're just now coming out of the launcher tube. They have a tendency to break. I have a plan how to fix the launcher tube one, and that's defaulting any missile that's loaded on the client to automatically face up by default until it's received its new position data. And then I'll figure out some way to make sure the launchers don't, or the handheld launchers don't have that problem as well. I think if I use additional spawn data, it may fix it. I'm going to have to toy around a lot with it. But the plan is to get them functioning. And hopefully, another thing I forgot to mention is we're going to start back up on trying to get the Volts mod packs stable again. This is whole part of the getting all the mods stable, but we're going to try to accelerate the process on the Volts mod packs and get them going so that way our sponsors can use them, and then we can hopefully finally get that Volt server up and running. We've had 3 servers for quite a while, sponsored by Accolades. I mean, they're great people. They've been giving us amazing support by giving us free servers, but we haven't been using them properly, and we actually need to. Oh, look at that skin! We got the default one on here. Yeah, like I thought. He went ahead and put some noise on here, but the noise is too high detail. So what I think I'm going to do is come back in here, that skin texture we have, and pop that on there. Because that's what we did with a standard missile. And do we have the micro render? Gosh, it's not working. 3D rendering? No. Yeah, it's not doing what it's doing. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here anyways, because I need to go get food because I haven't eaten anything all day. And I'm going to forget if I don't. So I'll see you guys later, and hopefully I'll get enough free time here to start making 3 videos a day again like I was doing. And potentially we'll have new versions of ICBM out with this medium missile, and here pretty soon the large one is going to be added. So we'll have a 32 block tall one completed that Alex is working on at the moment, and once that's done, that's going to be probably the largest missile we'll have in this version of ICBM until we get the 64 block one. But the 64 block one is probably not going to be added this year. I'll probably do that next year because it's going to take a bit of effort to get this guy by himself functioning, and then when I get this one done, of course the larger one will be a little easier to do. So we have to do stage mechanics. I got to actually properly do acceleration. I got to do fuel mechanics. There's a lot of the construction process that has to be finalized, because if we can't even look at the standard, but the standard missile, if you've seen the construction process, you just right click and stuff. That's actually not how the process is supposed to be done. There's supposed to be welders involved, rivet guns, other tools. You're meant to do it through automation, by the way, so you're never meant to craft these by hand. But yeah, so we'll get this all set up, and I love to see this thing go off, because I mean, look at that. The payload section on this is about the size of a player, which means there's enough destructive capability through this object by itself. Actually, I think if you load this with gunpowder, by the way, the fuel tanks are going to do more damage than the warhead is, but we can expect it to start making craters about this size over here from just that one loaded with conventional explosive. Now, when you start throwing things like antimatter in there, nuclear stuff, then your craters are going to start getting to be about this radius around. Really hard to describe because I don't have the numbers on hand, and I'm probably going to make an Excel sheet pretty quickly when I start to implement the warhead for this in order to figure out a balancing point, because I need to know the material cost, the amount of time it takes to you to build the missile, to the amount of supporting infrastructure. Because this thing is really the biggest thing it's going to cost you on the medium is the supporting infrastructure, because you'll have to build small automation factories. There'll be crane systems, fueling towers, control silos, and various other things will have to be built just to launch the medium. But the standard and down, you don't really need that because they're meant to be launched in the field, where this one, good luck launching this in the field. But I'll see you guys later with more videos.